Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today. If you're tuning in on our YouTube page or with us here in our webinar, we're so excited to have you join us for this presentation as part of the 2021 Earth and Arbor Day event series on behalf of the City of Wilmington. I am Chesa Ramachati, and I work at the Partnership for the Delaware Estuary, and we're really excited to be hosting this conversation this evening to share some information with you about climate activism and environmental justice, and just so many different topics we're going to cover this evening. And we're really excited to have some great panelists who are going to provide some really good insight for you. I'm really looking forward to the conversation. To start this evening, there we go. I want to give a little overview just of their Earth and Arbor Day celebration this year. So we have a lot going on this week. Some of it's already happened, some of it's still to come, but there's definitely ways that you can participate. So we have a few other webinars that happened earlier in the week on community gardening and on clean commuting. So you can find recordings of both of those on our website at delawareestuary.org/earthandarbor. We also have some educational activities, a scavenger hunt, and giveaways. So every day this week, we're giving away prizes. You can try new activities that are sustainable and enter to win into prizes. So I want to highlight our special try giveaway for Earth Day. And this one is really about thinking about our trash that we accumulate every day. So we're challenging folks to, get a clean baggie or keep a log of everything that you threw out today, or you can try it tomorrow too, or over the weekend. And then at the end of the day, you can see how much trash you're really accumulating over the day, and maybe pick one item that you think that you could do without, that you could find a reusable alternative for, or maybe that you don't need at all. And then doing little changes like that can really help to reduce our waste overall. So again, to enter, you can go to our website, delawareestuary.org/earthandarbor, to enter those giveaways. So this evening, for our special Earth Day conversation, we are presenting a conversation with tomorrow's changemakers. And I am now going to hand it over to my colleague at the Partnership for the Delaware Estuary, Jana Savini. So Jana, take it away.
Awesome. Hi, everybody. Happy Earth Day. Like Chesa said, my name is Jana Savini, and I am an engagement fellow at the Partnership for the Delaware Estuary. I've been looking forward to this conversation since we started planning it. We've just had a lot of good ideas, and our two panelists are way further ahead than I was at that age. So I'm really excited for you guys to meet them and hear what they have to say. So on that note, I want to introduce Megan Chen, who is the director at the Urban Garden Initiative here in Wilmington, and Malika Yates, who is Elite Miss Delaware Earth. And I'm going to let each of them just sort of say hello, who you are, what you do, and all that sort of stuff. So Megan, would you like to start us off?
Sure, thank you. Really excited to be here. So yes, my name is Megan. I'm actually going to be a rising freshman at Stanford University this fall, studying urban studies and public policy. So lots of similar work to what I already do with the Urban Garden Initiative. To give a little bit of context of that as well. So the Urban Garden Initiative is an international 501c3 nonprofit that really aims to inspire and empower young people to make change in their communities, to kind of take that environmental action, and more importantly, learn the hands-on skills such as gardening, such as just how to make their community more of a green space, especially in the city. So in addition to that, I also serve on the executive committee of the Delaware Sierra Club, and do some of that other work as well. But yeah, thanks.
Awesome. So happy to have you, Megan. And Malika.
Yes, I am the reigning Elite Miss Delaware Earth, and also the founder of the Global Ripple Effect Project, INC, which is an environmental 501c3 nonprofit that I'm super excited that I just founded. And I I'm part Cherokee Indian, so my love for the environment began early. I learned how to plant fruits, vegetables, and so I incorporate that in my nonprofit. I have an eco education program where I teach people how to live an eco-friendly, healthy, and sustainable lifestyle filled with kindness globally.
Wow, that's so great. So excited to have you here, Malika. Like I said, these girls know so much more than I did for sure at that age. I think I was like working part-time and like thinking about the beach, and that's probably it. So this is going to be great. So let's get right into it. I guess Malika, we'll start with you this time. Everyone kind of knows, you know, we should care for the planet and kind of care about what's going on, but why is being an environmental activist important to you?
Well, when you think about it from either a citizen of the world or a human standpoint, our Earth is what we all have in common. So naturally, it makes sense to take care of our environment because there's no planet B. So learning that litter actually adds to air pollution and water pollution is vital, because if you don't know, you can't grow and you can't make an informed decision to either put the trash in your trunk, carry 2 bags with you, one for trash, one for recyclables. Like if you don't have the information, then you're just gonna run around aimlessly continuing bad habits. And carrying a reusable water bottle and just breaking up with plastic in general, like small steps add up to big action. And together we can all spark change globally. So once you learn the fundamentals, you can empower others to, you know, change the world.
That's great. I love that phrase, there is no planet B. Like that's amazing. I love that. Somebody put that on a billboard. Megan, why is being an activist important to you?
Yeah, I mean, I really like what Malika said there. I think just adding on to that a little bit, like past just what you can do individually, I think there's so much more that you can do as a collective. And if you feel that you are really passionate about this topic, especially, that next step is to educate other people and to shine light upon other things that are going on so that you can get your friends and your family and your community to also get involved with what is going on. So I think it's, you know, sometimes I don't even like to coin the term of like, you're an activist and you're not an activist. I think just really using your voice and doing what you're doing on a wider scale by just letting other people get involved, that's more important.
Yeah, I really love that you touched on, it's not just about one person, it's about bringing other people with you. And that's actually kind of a lot of what we're going to talk about tonight, because yeah, the sum of the group that was much more powerful than any like one person can do. So kind of on that note, I think we know what happens here in Wilmington, but I think when, you know, the country and certainly the world looks at Wilmington, Delaware, we don't think ecological paradise, you know, we think banks and the train station and like, right. So why should people, young people, old people, all people in Wilmington, care about the things that you both just mentioned, and just about, you know, just stewardship in general? Megan, do you want to start?
Yeah. Well, I'll tie this into, I guess, also like why we started Tugi, because it was actually exactly for that reason. So I'm assuming most people listening in are from Wilmington. So might or might not know that Wilmington is actually in and of itself considered a pretty major food desert, especially kind of comparatively to a lot of you know, communities surrounding it. So that was actually the base and kind of the reason why Tugi was started back when we started almost 2.5 years ago, maybe a little bit longer. At this point, there really was not a lot of solutions being implemented in the city. I personally was able to work on one of the really few urban gardens that are located there, and just really saw the amazing power that like community gardening could hold, but also how that wasn't something that was really widespread. And even the food distribution in and of itself of a lot of those community gardens are not really being able to be put to like the communities and people who really need it. So that's why kind of Tugi was started. But I think in addition to that, and just like what we teach at a lot of our workshops, is that all of these environmental issues that are going on are all kind of interrelated. So the food desert problems, but also Wilmington being a city in and of itself, a lot of air pollution, a lot of noise pollution and pollution at large. So all of these things are kind of, you know, they're it seems like little separate spheres, but they all contribute to climate change. So what we try to do is really like educate young people, like these things are happening, but more so what are little things that you can do to kind of help solve a lot of these larger problems that are going on.
Yeah, awesome. Malika, why Wilmington? Why should people here care about this?
Well, not to be biased, but we have an opportunity here as the first state to be pioneers in sustainability. And so when moving here from New Jersey, I noticed just subtle things. Like when I lived in New Jersey, I grew up in the suburbs. Well, my school was full. I went to an under-resourced community and an inner city school, and just experiencing climate change there firsthand really gave me a newfound perspective on how I viewed our Earth in general. And I knew that at that moment, I found my calling, like I had my mission, and it was to educate everyone about pollution and climate change. And when I moved here in Delaware, like Megan said, I noticed that Wilmington was a food desert. And so immediately, like if you look at the clip from last December, I brought communities together here throughout our state, and even companies got involved around our country to help with my food drive for the Ministry of Caring's Women's Mary Hope homeless shelter. So I was able to just bring some healthy food options and sustainable holiday gifts to that women's shelter. And by doing so, I was able to educate an under-resourced community why eating healthy is important. And now I'm working with different organizations. I've been granted land, so I will be able to start a free community garden in Wilmington. And this free community garden will serve as a resource for communities that do not have healthy food options. So they will learn how to properly take care of soil, how to plant their fruits and vegetables. And at the end of the workshop, they'll also go home with fruits and vegetables. So it's just like those little things, like this is our state, and I view it as we're a community. It doesn't matter what part of Delaware you live in, like you're my neighbor, you're a part of my community. And so if we help strengthen every community, the possibilities that we can reach as a state and as a country and globally will be endless.
Yeah. And also kind of, bringing what Megan was talking about there's so many side bonuses when you work in a community gardening sort of setup. There's all those like other natural connections and networking and bonds and that sort of stuff. So it's like a win-win. I love that you guys touched on a very, very specific Wilmington problem, because the food desert is a big deal here. I think a lot of times, I know for me, for sure, when I was young, I thought environmentalism was like, save the whales and plant a tree, but like that really didn't mean much to me growing up here, but like food desert is a thing, other climate change related things like property damage, air pollution, that kind of stuff, like that affects you no matter where you live, whether you live, out in the forest, or if you live, on Union Street. So I think that's great. And that both those projects that you guys are working on are having real measurable change right now, which is that's an example to us all, I think. So we've established that it's good to care about these things, right? So let's take it a step further. Why is it important to you to have people doing this work, making a career out of this? Megan, you mentioned you were going for environmental justice, that kind of stuff. Why is it important to have people doing the work to advocate for these resources in general, but also specifically here in Delaware?
Yeah, so there's a couple of different thoughts that I have on this. I guess I want to start off, especially in the light of like what this panel is about, and just like the importance of like starting young. I think right now we're seeing more of this like youth-led kind of like climate justice movement, but it's not something that still I think is nearly to the scale that it needs to be, given how like insurmountable a lot of these problems that we're currently undergoing are, and how climate change is something, there's so many statistics by like 2050, the planet is not going to be like what we know it, and like we're going to run out of like different fossil fuels and like all of that kind of thing. So I still think that there's like this huge lack of even just like starting really young and teaching young people about what's going on. But I think past that to your point of why it's important to continue this work is that it's not something that just has an end. It's not, in 5 years after you're done doing this when you're in high school and college, then you're just done doing this work in general. It's something that even if you don't consider yourself maybe an environmentalist, like you should care about or do little things throughout your entire life. But if you are starting this now, going into the future, it's important that you take the little things that you learned before and then you kind of amplify that message throughout the later years of your life. So personally, that is exactly why I am passionate about still continuing this work. I want to study it kind of like through college, and I don't know exactly like what career field I want to do, but I think another thing that I've just been thinking about a lot more is how we can incorporate environmental sustainability into so many different career fields and just jobs in general, because that's something that every single corporation, no matter kind of what field they're in, need to think about when it comes to just like what's going on with our planet. So yeah, definitely keeping the options open, but ensuring that it still ties back to environmental sustainability.
Awesome. Great. And so, yeah, Malika, caring is one thing. Why is it important that we level up and have people in career fields doing this work?
It's important because these are our leaders. We look to them, we choose them when we go vote, and we have our elected officials, our members in Congress. So it's really important that the business owners, decision makers, we just come together as a whole and just practice good practices, which is why I trained at the Climate Reality Training and started the Newark, Delaware Climate Reality Chapter. By doing so, I was able to help encourage the passage of the Newcastle County Coalition, which is the Delaware's local version of the Paris Agreement before we were entered back into that Paris Agreement recently. Also, I have created an environmental law, which I hope will become a global environmental law once it passes, which will require every school, no matter where you're at, inner city, suburban schools, will have to have eco education as part of the curriculum, because I was very fortunate enough to start out young, and watching shows like Captain Planet and different environmental shows just made me feel like I could be a part of that change that I wanted to see in the world, and which is why I had the confidence and passion to just jump into this field. So I just feel if we all came together and we all were leaders and not just look for, companies and our elected officials, but if we all be a leader in our communities, throughout our state, throughout our countries, then maybe we can become a sustainable world by 2030.
That would be amazing. So we know that you guys are. This is where your careers are naturally leaning towards. But I know I especially hear a lot of reasons people give to not going into an environmental career. So like excuses, right? So Megan, what are some things that you have heard of people, like when you talk about what you want to do with your career, what are some things that you've heard that people say, oh, I couldn't do that because this?
Well, I guess quick story time. As I, now I can say like I finished the college application process, all of that. But what I just have found through the entirety of high school and even leading up to now is like how much we push for like the same STEM pathways and the same STEM classes, and then therefore careers, like how much engineering and computer science are like pushed down our throats from like at my school, like since middle school almost. And until I started the college application process, I didn't even realize that there's kind of like majors like urban studies, which is exactly that intersection of policy and climate education and environmental work and economics and all these things that I've like super interested in, until I kind of like found that path on my own. And then when I introduced urban studies to people are like, what is that? But like without the backbone of urban studies and sustainable development and sustainable infrastructure within cities, like a lot of these problems aren't going to be solved. So I don't know if I've necessarily heard, maybe some of like the pay related, although I'm sure that's like what people are thinking of as well when I mention some of these career fields that I want to go into, but definitely just the fact that like they're never even introduced to students throughout high school, throughout middle school, as like viable options for them to even go into. That in and of itself, I found a little bit crazy until I discovered it on my own.
Yeah. And Malika, what are some things you've heard why people don't choose this path?
Well, some people tell me climate change isn't real. There's no such thing as pollution. They don't have time They can't afford it. It's free. Yeah.
Right.
Or they're busy.
Yes. Yeah. So I think those are great points. And the pay is a huge sticking point. You know, a lot of people think that, you know, if you're like an environmentalist, you're like sleeping in a tent in the woods, eating granola bars. Like, no, these are real jobs with real benefits and all of that sort of stuff. And it doesn't have to be, you know, you don't have to be the CEO of a major environmental company. You can volunteer. You can do what you do have time for. It doesn't have to be this all-encompassing thing. There are so many different ways to get involved. So yeah, if you're not an engineer or a chemist or whatever, there's like, you can go into law or policy. So whatever sort of things you do tend toward is the way to go. Like, so I think kind of what you guys have been saying about this holistic approach across industry is really how we're going to move forward in like a more sustainable way. So we know that we want to get everybody on board. We want to have people from working in all these different aspects of caring for the planet. And right here in Wilmington, there are people who are from a lot of different backgrounds. So it makes sense. We should also see that reflected in the environmental leadership. I mean, and like I said, that could be everybody, kind of just piggybacking off the last question. They could be policymakers, they could be the engineers, they could be the teachers, they could be just thought leaders, that kind of stuff. Why is it important that we have a diverse workforce when it comes to the environment? Malika, do you want to start?
Yes. My friend said to me recently, and he didn't even know that I felt this way, but he said, you can't be what you can't see. And I think that is so true. Growing up, like when I moved to an under-resourced community, I didn't see leaders that looked like me.
Right.
Like the single mothers had, like my mom had 3 jobs. And my mom would have to catch the bus and then a cab to go to work. So it wasn't like she actively had time to attend town hall meetings. So just wanting to change that, which is why I make it my mission to take up space and use my voice whenever I hear there's a town hall meeting, or when we had the Delaware Sustainability Plan meeting. Like, I attend all these things because every voice matters. And once we start seeing a diverse committee, a diverse group of people taking action, then we can have diverse leaders, we can have diverse children who know that they belong in this space, that they are capable, that they are worthy, that they have value, and that their voice matters. When we make it the norm for a diverse committee, then our future generations will know that it's okay. Like, you can apply for this job and you'll be accepted. You don't have to worry about anything holding you back, because if you work hard, you are capable and you can achieve anything. So if we make that our norm, then I just feel like we would just be so amazing.
I'll agree. Megan, what do you think about diversity in the environmental workforce?
Yeah, there's just so much that I could even like say, I guess, on this topic. But what I really liked what Malika just said is, you know, another take of like what you can't be, like what you can't see, is I feel like that's almost the root of like the topic of environmental justice in and of itself. The idea that people, and I think for any kind of problem, should not think that they should, you know, create these blanket solutions for other communities that are actually dealing with the forefront of the issue. So having people that actually have undergone those experiences are on, I guess you could almost call the front line of dealing with kind of these climate disasters or just problems related to climate change in general, having their voice be amplified when it comes to what policies or what things need to be changed. When it comes to that, I think that's really important, and in and of itself, I think that contributes to this like diversity that like you were kind of talking about. And again, bringing it back to, you know, young people's voices, I feel like for so long, like we've not really had a seat at the table. You know, a lot of people are just like talking to us about, oh, this is like what you want to do, but like our concerns and like what we feel and all of that has kind of been silenced. So I think even that in and of itself, like having young people who are really dealing with the forefront of climate change right now, or are going to be dealing with a lot of that going forward, allowing them to really shine light upon what they're going through. I think that's also really important in our work moving forward.
Sure. Malika?
Yes, Megan made me think of, so I'm not really sure if you are in the same year as me, but I remember when I was younger, I was told that children are seen, not heard. So if you were in my era, we're not going to say what year I was born, but back in the day, if you were told that, then it's kind of like Megan said, you were trained, you were taught to be silent. But I feel if we change that and we say to our youth, speak your mind, you have value, make your point, and then they'll learn that, okay, well, climate change is real and I'm okay, like I'm allowed to talk about it. Just make it a part of the normal conversation. Sorry, that's all. But when Megan said that, I was like, I remember being silenced as a child.
Oh, same. And I think that's sort of what we're getting at here is like you can be the change. It doesn't matter how old you are, what your profession is, what your interests are, what your time commitment is, what your financial situation is. If everything stays the way it has been, nothing will change. So we say we want things to change, but we have to be the ones to do it, and that, I think that's amazing. So kind of on that trend, in environmental circles now, and I'm sure you guys have heard this phrase a lot, we've been talking a lot about environmental justice, sort of like a buzzword now. So I guess I'll start with Megan this time. Megan, what does that phrase mean to you? And how do you think that by pursuing that, we can better take care of this planet?
Yeah, I mean, I think even through the last question, so much of like what I was, wanted to touch upon for environmental justice in and of itself, it's like such a huge issue, but I think it all boils down to with what's going on in our planet right now, it needs to be a fight that we're all fighting for, and we need to make sure that people across all backgrounds, whether it's because of race or gender or religion or whatever, are all feeling like they're playing an equal role and equal part into this movement of just creating a better and safer planet. And right now, especially with what's going on in our country, there's so many injustices, and so we're not able to move forward and kind of making that fight happen. So I think, oftentimes when people think of what's going on with the environment, they don't think about how that's also tied into so many of the other social justice issues going on, how for the most part, the people who are really dealing with the forefront of environmental problems are BIPOC communities. They are lower income communities. So environmental justice is something where, all these other social justice issues are all kind of coming together. It's like none of them are just, standalone problems. In order to solve one, we kind of need to help solve another as well. So it's a little bit general, but environmental justice in and of itself is just such a broad topic with so many little facets within it. But it is a very much so really current and like relevant issue to really be talking about a lot.
Yeah. And I think a lot of that's true even here in Wilmington. You know what I mean? There are communities who have been disproportionately affected by climate change. And it's on all of us to do better, Malika? What does environmental justice mean to you, and how will that make this work better in the future?
So I don't want to repeat some of the stuff you guys said, because literally that's what I was going to say. But for me, environmental justice is just like the fair treatment of all people, regardless of their race, income, and just like having laws and regulations that actually help improve all communities, whether it's an under-resourced, an impoverished, a suburban community, making sure that every community gets funding, and not just like, suburban communities, but making sure that every community is brought up at every meeting and they have equal access to resources. I think that is huge, because we want to make sure that leaders from all communities are welcome into these policies, and just having like a position, like having a seat, having, a voice at different town halls, and just having policymakers that reflect every community, I think is really huge, because like Megan said, you can't have environmental justice without social justice. It's a ripple effect. So it's not like one thing that's gonna, help with this fight. We need to do a series of small things that will add up and have a big impact.
Yeah, I'll kind of echo that doing the small things has a bigger impact, because a lot of times some people don't even know this stuff is out there. They don't even know that there is a policy that is in place to help them, that there's funding available, how to apply for it, that kind of stuff. So yeah, I think what you guys are saying is absolutely the way forward. So we've talked a lot about why we should care and how, like, to what extent. So for the next half, I kind of want to talk about what we can do, what we can do right now. I mean, there are lots of things that we've talked about this week throughout Earth Day that adults can do, property owners, that kind of stuff. What I want to know is, what can young people who don't own their own home, have their own yard, what can you do right now, today, to help? Malika?
All right. So let's everyone get a pen and paper, because I'm going to give you guys a lot of information. 1, you can refuse single-use plastics. When I tell you break up with plastic, that is going to be the phrase for 2021. Just go ahead and do it already. 2, you saw this earlier, switch to a reusable water bottle. This will save your life. Hiking, biking, volunteering, you need this. This is your new best friend. We don't need plastic. Plastic is dangerous, so leave that alone. So we're going to move over to the Ziploc bags. Again, we broke up with plastic. We have silicone Ziploc bags. We don't need those plastic straws. And if you're like me, you don't want a paper straw either. You can use those. However, I prefer my bamboo straw. Like, this is my friend, and it's a great conversation starter. So if you're shy, you're introvert, listen, I can help you. Second, I said bamboo, right?
Yeah,
bamboo.
hold on, Malika, are those bamboo straws washable?
Yes.
Amazing. Okay,
Yeah.
sorry, didn't mean to interrupt.
I use my bamboo plates for everything. So say like I have like my little family gathering within my little bubble. I bring out these bad boys. I'm doing an arts and crafts project with the children. We are using bamboo plates. Reusable bags. So depending on where you go, I know Trader Joe's, I think the first time you visit there, they give you your first one for free. You can find these at any store, even the dollar store, for just $1. If you volunteer, sometimes you get a free t-shirt or a reusable bag or a reusable water bottle. So get involved in your community. Also, you can start your own garden at home. Let's reduce our carbon footprint and eat healthy at home. This is a great thing to do with the children, your family. It's a great bonding exercise. So you're gonna order food, or maybe you went out to eat and you cannot just eat anymore. Carry a sustainable carry kit with you. So I use this. I actually have a glass one too. So whenever I go out, I always just carry my own stuff, because I know sometimes I can't finish everything and I might want to take it home because I'm not wasteful. Or if I cut it in half, I might give it to a homeless person. So, I just carry these things with me because they always come in handy. Now, ladies, there are sustainable beauty products. You may not know this, but oh my goodness, let me tell you. Sephora has a good line. So these are Q-tips, and they are from Sephora. And all of this stuff, it's like super inexpensive if you know how to do it right. Inbox me at Elite Miss Delaware on Facebook and Instagram. One of my sponsors, Eco Girl Shop. She is amazing. I will keep you guys updated with the promo codes. But they even have eco-friendly and vegan candles. Like, the opportunities are endless. These small steps are super easy. Everything I showed you, combined, it was under $20. Like, it is not expensive. So we're going to break that stereotype that it's expensive to do these things, because it's really not. You just have to know where to start.
Yeah, that's all great info. And yeah, it doesn't have to be expensive. And you don't have to do all of the things. You can do one of the things and start there, and then it builds from there. Megan, what can you tell us about what you can do?
So I don't think I can undo Malika's great live demo right there with all the products. Now I want to get some of those. But I'm going to talk about, I guess, another aspect. So I think Malika touched on a lot of like individual action that I think, young people can buy a lot of those products and be sustainable. So I'm going to talk about more of like that school aspect of things as well. And I think something really interesting or kind of cool that my school just did. So there's a couple of people at my school that were really, interested in offsetting, the carbon and the amount of paper that we use throughout schools, which is, if you ever are interested in that in and of itself, especially if you're a student, just ask your school how much, paper that they're using on a daily basis and not even yearly. And it's like just crazy amounts. So I volunteered, I think this past weekend, where we just planted over 200 trees, like different groups of people, did different amounts of trees, but that all to offset the amount of carbon that we've been using just through, different paper products and all of that. So definitely just seeing how much, light and electricity that your school using, how much carbon, and tracking that and trying to offset it. I think that's really great way that you can get involved. Another thing, of course, and I think we touched on it a couple of times, is obviously to get involved locally. So there's so many really amazing nonprofits. And I know as students, so many times people are looking for community service hours and wanting to get involved in their community. And as a young person, it can be a lot to be like, oh, I have to do my own thing, I have to pay my own way. But there's so many incredible leaders and organizations already out there that are doing a lot of this really incredible work. So learning from them and getting involved and volunteering and doing cleanups and planting gardens and working outside of community gardens and all that kind of stuff, I think is really amazing. And it really is limitless, like what you can kind of do throughout your community. And I'm sure you can find something that is tied into what you're interested in. So I think almost at the opposite end, like there's so many ways that young people can get involved with this. It's just like starting somewhere, and then that's just gonna in and of itself snowball into so many other things that you can do for our planet.
Yeah. What about like right inside your own home? Like I don't want to put you on the spot, Megan, but you're kind of my composting guru, because to me, it's this like foreign concept that I know is like a good thing that I should do, but I definitely have no idea where to start. But like anyone who eats can compost, right?
Yeah, I was actually, as you said that, I was just about to mention that. So in and of itself at your home, there's so much that you can do as well. I think a lot of what Malika mentioned before with sustainable products, I mean, you can still use those sustainable products while you're at home. You can reduce kind of your electricity usage, your water usage, all that kind of thing. Even if you're not buying the eco-friendly appliance, like you can still use the ones you have and make sure you're using it sustainably. But yeah, so when it comes to gardening and it comes to composting specifically, it's super easy to get started, even though, and I'm pretty sure saying this, but definitely correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think Wilmington has like a citywide composting program yet, but there's definitely ways that, I wish that was a thing. While we're on this panel, City of Wilmington, we should definitely try to do something like that. But you can definitely start your own compost bin, even if you live in an apartment or kind of a small space. It's very easy to get started. You just have to have some type of bin. You can usually, probably like having it closed off is nice, especially for the smell and all of that, keeping it outside. And then there's different types of veggie scraps that you could put in. Do you have to be a little bit conscious, like don't put in meat products and like fish and things into your compost, but almost all veggie scraps are fine. And you kind of layer it with some other paper and leaves and add worms and all of that. But that's really great to start off your garden. And I feel like I'm also known for talking about this a lot, but just simply because of how easy it is, container gardening is, I think, especially relevant for living in Wilmington, especially if you're living kind of more of an urban or smaller location and you don't have acres and acres to garden and grow raised beds and do all of that. You can grow a lot of your own veggies just straight out of large containers that you could even recycle. And that's a great way to get into gardening, kind of get your hands dirty a little bit doing that, but also it's not super expensive and it's not super time intensive either. So yeah, a couple of different ways at your home you can get started.
That's awesome. Yeah, my like big win every day is I unplug the coffee pot when it's done, and I don't plug it in again till the next morning, and I'm like, I'm killing it. This is great. But there's like stuff like that people can do, right? Awesome. Great. So I think that was kind of it. Do you guys have anything you wanted to add before we turn it over to questions?
I do.
Sure.
So if you guys are looking to get involved and you don't know how, I started out going to volunteermatch.com, and I literally just Googled environmental nonprofits here in Delaware, and that's how I fell in love with DCH and the Delaware Nature Society. So I volunteer with them. Every year I volunteer at the Middle Run, so I'm planting trees. And now having my own nonprofit, I have a cleanup this Saturday, and then I have my tree planting event next Friday on Arbor Day. So I'm really excited about that. Again, for more info, just hit me up on the social. You guys will see flyers coming out soon. But just like getting involved in your community, you think global, but you act local, right? So just knowing where to find these resources, and Google is like your best friend. So they're out there. Don't be afraid to just look it up and get involved. Everyone is as caring as you are about the environment. So you might even leave with a new friend or two.
Yeah, that's great. Just Google. That's it. That's all the harder it is, right? They're not like hidden in some mysterious, like dusty shelf in the library. Just look it up. You'll find something. Megan, any last thoughts before we turn it over to questions?
Well, I guess in a similar light, just adding on to what Malika said, Tugi, we started locally. Obviously now at this point, we do work nationally and globally, but we still have so much work that you can get involved in on a really local scale. So us on Instagram, it's just the Urban Garden Initiative, websites, the Urban Garden Initiative, pretty much everything. And we'll have, gardening events, we'll have educational events. And I think also because of everything going on right now, still with the pandemic and all of that, for the past year and a half, we've been offering virtual volunteer opportunities as well, developing curriculum and working on social media work, and a lot of different things that you can just find out through signing up. But if there's a will, there's a way. And if you want to kind of, get involved in this eco work, I feel like we've been saying, the possibilities are really limitless. So you have to start with something you like and then kind of go from there.
Sure. Yeah. So we've been talking a lot about young people. What about older folks like me who still want to be active and help out and experience new things? Are your events open to anyone, or is it just for young folks? Megan?
Yeah, I'm sure I'm speaking about this on behalf of Malika as well, but they're pretty much open to anyone, whoever's interested and wants to come with open arms. We are inviting you to any of our events. So yeah, not just limited to young people, although young people, please get involved, continue to stay involved. But yes, that's it. They are
wonderful. And same with you, Malika. You wouldn't mind an old person like me showing up to one of your events to help with trees?
Listen, if you can walk, I welcome you. I don't care how old you are. You could be 2 or 130. Like, please come and join us. And getting involved in a community cleanup is just a great way to not only get your family involved and care about our environment, but it's the chance for you to unite as a community and do something great. So just come out.
That's wonderful. So for the last few minutes here, I do want to open it up to questions. If there's any that our attendees have, or I guess you could just put them in the chat, or I'm sorry, put them in the Q&A box. And Cheza, I don't know if you have received any on your end.
So I do have a question from myself, actually, but I first do want to plug both Megan and Malika have videos on our for our Gardening Monday that we did earlier this week. So we have videos from them on our YouTube that they did about gardening, different gardening things, and cooking meatless meals. So I think those are two great opportunities that you guys can check out those great videos on our YouTube. But I am wondering, I think both of you guys work with young kids, and I think for myself as well, that was something that helped me get into the environmental space, was being introduced to these things young. And I'm just curious to know, like, what has your experience been like with young kids, maybe planting a tree for the first time or doing a cleanup for the first time? What is that like, and why do you think that's so important for really young kids to have those types of experiences?
Yeah, I guess I can get started with this one. Honestly, I would say the experience of just working with really young students on this has been like my favorite part about all of this work. And even more so, although now we still do virtual programming, but when we did in-person programming, like, and I'm not even kidding when I say this, like the students' faces would light up when they started like playing with soil in the classroom and gardening and doing all that, because I don't think people really realize like how little a lot of like, especially gardening in and of itself, is being brought into classrooms. And for many of the young students that I was working with, like this was their first experience, or they've like really never gotten into gardening or growing at all before. So I always say this as well, but it was so funny because sometimes during these workshops, it would be like, where does your food come from? And these young students would be like, I from the grocery store. Like they don't really make the connection or the association that their food is coming from, these farms thousands of miles away, and all of that. And in addition, like when you're growing your own food, like how in order to grow a carrot and you buy it at the grocery store for $4, but it takes like 6 months to really from like seed to actually eating it when you're growing it on your own. So I think students develop a lot more of an appreciation of like what they're eating and where their food is coming from and why they're priced the way they are, and all of that. So yeah, there's so much learning that happens through just in and of itself of just like doing what it is. And I think that applies to like education as a whole. Like too much of it is just us telling students what's going on without them doing it. And I think the more that, we allow students to really do it and see it on their own, I think there's a lot of power within that.
I totally agree. For me, what I did was I actually visit both schools I attended when I was younger. So I went to my suburban school first, and I showed them how to do an upcycle arts and craft project, which was a milk carton bird feeder. And their faces lit up. They were just so excited because, you got to bring in your own milk carton from home. Like, well, what's your favorite milk? And some people were vegan like myself, so then that opened a discussion, and we're talking about like vegan and keto and vegetarian. It's like, so while we're learning, I'm like, educating them on the importance of reducing their carbon footprint by eating less meat, but we're also learning how to upcycle at the same time and what it does for our environment and how it empowers us to reduce our waste while doing some fun arts and crafts. So that experience was amazing. And then a few weeks later, I visited the under-resourced community, and I took a school from Camden, New Jersey on a eco-educational field trip to the Franklin Institute in Philadelphia. So again, I had entire bamboo products. Like, you will not believe what you can find that is made out of bamboo, like even down to the napkins. Like, it was amazing. And so I'm introducing vegan and vegetarian options. Now, for most of the students, even the two teachers, this was the first time that they were introduced to these healthy food options, which was really surprising to me. And so I was like really excited, and they were excited because like the food looked delicious, and it was so good. Like, it's super easy to eat delicious food that is healthy and then gives you energy. So just like, the entire time I'm like, well, did you know that this is the carbon footprint we use today? Like, all of these were locally sourced here in the US. And just again, talking about our carbon footprint, what we can reduce, and, walking, biking, carpooling, just those little tips. Like, and then at the end we made a video. So I gave them the knowledge, and then we had fun walking around and reading and learning. And then at the end, they made a video and told me everything they learned. And I was just like, a tear came down my eye. And one of the young ladies came up to me and she was like, I want to be like you when I grow up. And I'm just like, be still, my heart. It's such a rewarding experience when you're able to teach children at such a young age. So yeah, I love every moment of it.
That's awesome. Yeah, that little moment of when someone gets it, no matter what age they are, is magic, and it keeps you wanting to do this work. So I think that's really great. Yeah. Any last questions? I don't see any.
I do have one last thing that I think we could maybe end on. I think you guys really did very impressed, just by how much you were shared. And I know that you're going to inspire people to want to get involved and with your organizations. And I think you guys also did a great job at keeping things positive as to what we can do. A lot of times, there's climate change is a big thing to try and tackle. And sometimes it is negative and it can get a little scary. But I think, there are things that we as individuals can do and contribute to. So I'm curious if we can just end on maybe one positive thing that everyone is, hopeful about or looking forward to in the environmental movement, something that maybe you've seen or experienced recently that gives you hope for the future, that, we are moving in the right direction.
Yeah, I can start with this one. I think, in light of today, happy Earth Day to everyone that is listening in. And I'm just like so deeply grateful and thankful for so much support in one day. Like there's just been so much going on supporting like myself and the Urban Garden Initiative and just the work we've been doing for the past 2.5 to 3 years. And I think comparatively every year that we've like gone through Earth Day, like it just, the momentum keeps on growing. So that just goes to show that there's so many more people that are, now really caring and wanting to support, youth driven and youth led organizations within the climate space. And like we're hopefully seeing a more positive direction. I've definitely seen a lot of just youth voices in a lot of these like climate conversations that we're having more and more. So that in and of itself is really exciting. Definitely want to, keep the momentum going past Earth Day. I urge everyone to do that as well. Earth Day should not just be a day, it should be something that you're doing every single day. But yeah, thank you so much to everyone who's been supporting us today, especially.
Yeah, I concur. I would say the support, because I just recently emceed for former Vice President Al Gore's climate reality training. So everyone will see me day 3 of the training. I'm super excited about that. And then with my new nonprofit that I just founded, people around the world, they're donating for my tree planting event. And, as soon as we plant the trees, and they'll receive a certificate with their tree and where it's planted. So just being, even though we're like in a virtual space right now, just being able to like forge those strong bonds and relationships globally while getting people excited about taking care of our environment, I feel like that's priceless. Because when you're passionate and you're excited about something, you're going to continue to do it. So by doing small actions every day, you create a habit. Eventually, you'll be doing it 365 days. So just small things add up. And also green tech, I'm super excited about that too. Hello, Tesla, please, can I have a car? Thanks. And happy Earth Day.
Amazing. Well, I just want to thank you both so much for taking the time to chat with us tonight. I know you're extraordinarily busy, especially on today, Earth Day. So yeah, happy Earth Day to you both. I know you're being pulled in a million directions. I am really excited to see what you're both going to do with your careers. And I kind of can't wait till you guys are making the decisions and are in charge, because I feel like we're going to be in good hands. So once again, thank you, Megan Chen, Director of the Urban Garden Initiative, Malika Yates, Elite Miss Delaware Earth. And I will turn it back over to Cheza to wrap us up.
Yeah, thanks, Jenna. I concur. Thank you both so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. And I think this is really valuable for people in Wilmington to hear, about things that are going on right in their community and things that they can do to help. So thank you again. And for anyone interested, you can find all the information on our Earth and Arbor Day celebration on our website, delawareestuary.org/Earth and Arbor. And remember to participate in our scavenger hunt and giveaways, and check out all the cool videos and things that we have up there. And yeah, just thank you for joining us this Earth Day, and we will see you again next year for Earth Day.